King.
Over the mountains and the seas, your river flows with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will always lift my hands, and I will daily sing of when your love came down. I will sing of your love forever. 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 Hi. I'm Olive, and I'd like to invite you to come with me on a trip today. Now, on this journey, we're going to be scaling some symbolic mountains. We'll be making our way through some choppy waters, but I promise you that we'll end up in a safe haven. And along the way, we'll be sharing some life lessons and how we apply these, or how I have applied them to my life and to my business. So, who's up for the journey?
Yeah. Yes.
Let's go. So, yeah, I was born in a hospital that no longer exists, but St. Andrew's Hospital in Milan. That I'm reliably informed is within hearing of Bow Bells, which makes me a Cockney. And indeed, my earliest memories are of life in the East End of London, Roman Road Market, fish and chips in newspaper. I remember pie and mash, Cliff Richards, the Clitheroe Kid, and my favorite tipple at the time was Baby Sham, all 13% of it. My mother migrated to the West Indies when I was 6 years old, so I grew up in the West Indies. And that was an interesting experience. That was formative for me. I was, I'm told, a very precocious child, but firm West Indian parental discipline and attending a Roman Catholic convent girls' school soon put pay to that. As a young girl, I was always busy organizing things and people. So I was always trying to get people in my neighborhood together, the children, to participate in my plays and my concerts and my beauty contests, and just always wanting to make them work. And it was a really colorful time and a happy time. And I found that in latter years, when I dream, I tend to go back to those times. And those places always seem so big and so bold and so colorful. But I recently had the opportunity to revisit the place that I grew up. And decades later, and you know what? It seemed so small. It was so small. And the colors that I remember, everything just seemed really gray and drab in comparison to the way that I remember them. So that for me was life lesson number one. Perspective is important because we are all products of our past, whether they are good, positive experiences or negative ones. And we allow ourselves to be shaped by what's happened to us. And sometimes we've got it all wrong. What we remember is not the way that it was, or we just blow some things out of proportion. So perspective is important. We need to take time to reflect, but let's get it right. Go back to where it is. So I, as a child, spent a lot of time in hospital. And I always thought that I was going to end up to be a doctor. But when time came to choose A-levels, I looked at the work that I'd done, and I realized that I wasn't going to get the grades, the time that it would take, and the expense. And I thought, well, I think I'll do something interesting instead. So I decided that I was going to study tropical agriculture. A lot of my friends were going off to do it, so it was time away from home. So let's do that. So the inevitable happened. Year one, into a 4-year course, I started asking myself some questions. Did I make the right decision? Could I really have done this? Should I really try to do this thing? And life lesson number 2, that we all make decisions and we have to live with the consequences of our decisions. There is no going back, right? We have the choice. We either stand still or we go forward. We go forward in the same direction that we were on, or we go forward in the direction that we choose, another one. But it's all about taking responsibility and all about going with keeping on moving, basically. So I graduated. I finished my course, and it was the right decision, by the way, for me. And I graduated, and I had my first job. I was sent to run a lab on a farm that was based in a rural area. So I am a graduate. This is my first work experience, major work experience. And I would come in to work in the mornings and be faced with issues like, Miss Hamilton, we're not working today. I have crops in the field to be harvested, and they need to be harvested now. But we're being unionized, so we're not working today. There's a morning I came in to work, and there was a crowd by the gate. I walked up, the crowd parted, and I saw this car parked. And I looked into the car, and there was a dead man in the car. The man had been murdered and dumped on the farm. Or the fact that everyone knew was that a part of this farm, this estate, had a landing strip on it. That was a transit point for drugs. So we would have drug planes coming in, landing and loading up and taking off. But I guess, the one that I remember most fondly was the fact that one of the workers on the farm started planting a vegetable garden, and he was spending a lot of time on this garden. And all the plants were tomato-like plants. So, of course, what was going on? For those of us in the know, marijuana looks just like tomatoes. And right under my office, I had a ganja plantation. Those were good times. I stayed in that job for 3 years. And after that, my career path didn't seem so straight anymore. But I did spend useful times working in PR, in journalism. And at some point, I decided to return to this country and tried my hand at accounting. I'm not one of nature's accountants. But eventually, I found my way into public health and rediscovered, you know, that little girl who liked to organize things and people. I did an MBA and really rediscovered that whole love of things corporate, how organizations work, how you put them together, what makes them function, how do you fix them when they don't work well. So life lesson number 3 is it might not always go the way you plan it, and it can be a jungle out there. But none of those experiences or none of those tough times, indecision, what am I going to do, how do I do this, they don't last those times, right? But you do if the way that you approach them is that you do not let these things crush you. Keep calm and just strategize your way out of it. There is a way through this. And even if I don't know the answer, somebody else does. Find the answer and try to apply that. So we've been through some mountains and we've done the choppy seas bit, which brings us to here, right? So we are here right now. Where is here? Here can be a position. I'm standing here. You're all here. Here can also be a point in time, like now. Here can also be a state of mind. The question I'd like to ask is, how did you get here? Is here where you plan to be? And where are you going to go from here? I'd like to round off this foresight by reflecting on something that St. Augustine said. I'm not quoting, so I'm just paraphrasing. He said that in our minds, we tend to think in terms of the past, the present, and the future. But in reality, all we really have is the present. We have the present of things past, we have the present of the present, and we have the present of the future. The present of things past is our memory. The present of the present is what we have around us right now. And the present of the future are our hopes and our expectations. The present is what we can influence. We can't go back. We can only hope for the future. What are we doing with our present, with our here, and with our now? Make the most of this. Thank you.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.